Mission's retro-inspired 770 and 700 loudspeakers are impressive, but what about their more budget-friendly LX line of speakers? Let's find out just how good the sub-$600 LX-6 Mark II tower speakers really are. The Mission LX line, now in its second generation, has something both two-channel and home theater enthusiasts can enjoy. The LX-6 Mark II is the largest three-way tower speaker in the line, featuring a 1-inch fabric dome tweeter, a 5-inch mid-range driver, and two 6.5-inch woofers. Throw in two rear-facing ports and you have a tower speaker with a frequency response of 35 Hz to 20 kHz. Impedance is rated at 8 ohms, though it can dip to as low as 3, but given the 91 dB rated sensitivity, the LX-6 Mark II isn't too difficult to power, making it ideal for most budget integrated amplifiers and receivers. We tested the LX-6 speakers using two different integrated amplifiers. For stereo listening, the Audiolab 7000A, that review is coming, and Mission's new 778X integrated. Both performed great and drove the LX-6 speakers without issue. A quick word about the 778X. This is a really nice fit for a budget-friendly Mission speaker. Retailing at just under $900, you can build a rather high-performing two-channel setup with the LX-6 Mark II for around $2,000 all in. The integrated gives you analog and digital inputs, which include a rather good built-in phono preamp, an ESS reference DAC with high-res audio capability, Bluetooth with aptX support, and AAC support, not to mention a headphone amp. The 778X's 65 watts into 4 ohms is more than enough to drive the Mission towers, which is why we relied on it for the bulk of our two-channel listening. For home theater, we used the new Sony AN1000 receiver with the LX-6, along with our KLIPSCH in-ceiling speakers for Atmos and surround channels. Now, subwoofer duty, that fell to the Sony SW5 wireless subwoofer because it works seamlessly with Sony's new line of receivers. Mission makes two center speakers in the LX line, the C1 and C2. The C2 seen here is a good fit, though ultimately I did prefer a phantom center configuration. The Mission towers are actually surprisingly well crafted for such a budget speaker. Ours are finished in black, though depending on where you live, you might actually be able to find other finishes like walnut or white. The front baffle features a soft touch satin black finish on a matte black cabinet. The speakers come with some pretty basic magnetic grills. They're okay, and they do a decent job protecting their drivers from kiddos or pets, but the fit isn't what I would call tight. Some stronger magnets would definitely be an improvement. The LX-6 towers are pretty compact for a three-way design, coming in around the same size and weight as the Sonus Faber Lumina 3 or Arundel 1961 tower. The Missions are rear-ported, and as a result, they can be sensitive to room placement. Too close to the wall, and it's possible to boost their bass by more than 3 dB, resulting in a more chesty or boomy sound. Now, in our room, the speakers seem to perform their best when pulled out from the wall about 24 inches. This improved the speaker's low end, bringing it into better alignment with the rest of the response. Now, the LX-6 does have some natural boost to its bottom octaves by design, which I'm going to go over in just a moment. But aside from that, dispersion is good. So straight ahead or towed in, it doesn't really affect imaging too much, though when pointed directly at you, that is one way that you can improve high-frequency detail. Now, the measurements reveal a speaker that is pretty good from about 40 Hz on up to 10 kHz. There is definitely a boost in the bass that, regardless of placement, always seemed present. 24 inches out from the wall, and I was still measuring a boost of more than 5 dB in spots below 200 Hz. This gives the speaker a more rich, grounded, and bass-leaning tone. Now, the bass responds very well to EQ or room correction, but you will need to add a subwoofer for full-range playback. The mid-range is more or less linear, with some peaks here and there that adds to the speaker's character. The treble does start to roll off around 3 to 4 kHz, so like with the Polk Reserve series, the LX-6 is a speaker that plays nice with most recordings. When listening in stereo, the LX-6 Mark IIs are the type of speaker that just make it so easy to sit and listen. They're not going to put an extra emphasis on any one area of the response the way some speakers like B&W or Sonus Faber do. Nor are they going to come across as more live a la KLIPSCH or even the new Motion series from Martin Logan. No, the LX towers are very well mannered top to bottom, if not a little richer or fuller sounding than what I was expecting. Without a sub, bass comes across as deeper than it measures, and for me, it was actually enough that I didn't miss or want for a sub. Texturally, it is a little bit more vague or soft around the edges compared to, say, KLIPSCH's reference Premier towers. So weight is there, but the speaker lacks that last bit of texture or detail down low. Instruments like kick drums, therefore, are boomier than what I usually prefer, but with EQ and room correction plus a subwoofer, it is possible to firm up the low-end performance. This speaker's strength really is the mid-range and treble. Male and female vocals, as well as mid-range leaning instruments like acoustic guitars, sound very good. It's not a forward or live sounding mid-range. Because of the cabinet, there is some coloration, which gives the speaker sort of an old school warmth that helps less than audiophile grade recordings. Like with the Polk Reserve line, the tweeter possesses good detail and extension, but it does roll off as you near those ultra high frequencies. So if you prefer a brighter speaker, the Mission may feel a bit more subdued, but for the rest of you, I wouldn't be shocked if you felt the LX treble performance was pitch perfect for most music. The LX has terrific dispersion and one of the stronger center images I've heard at this price point. Instruments and performers exist behind the speaker's front baffles, but they extend with solid separation and contrast well beyond the outer boundaries of the speakers themselves with a surprising amount of height. Now, dynamically, these are not the snappiest. If you like face-melting metal or hard rock, these may be a little underwhelming. But if your musical tastes are more acoustic or jazz, the Missions will be a great solution. As the left and right mains in a home theater setup, I really like the LX-6 speakers. Their compact size makes them a no-brainer for those of you with smaller spaces. Not to say that they can't fill a larger space like ours, they can. Their bass performance definitely pays off when watching action films like Midway. Just know that a sub is always going to be required for true full-range playback, but if you don't want to upset your neighbors, you may do all right without a sub in some instances. Dialogue clarity, even without a center, I thought was excellent. Given the speaker's terrific dispersion, dialogue always tracked with the action on screen, even when sitting off axis. Dynamically, you are going to have to turn things up to breathe life into these towers, but the good news is you won't go broke doing so, as the entry-level Sony receiver was more than capable. The MSRP price of around $1,200 for the pair puts the LX-6 Mark IIs in direct competition with Yamo's S809 and C97 Mark II speakers, the JBL Stage A190, Focal CHORA 826s, and KLIPSCH's reference 800F, and perhaps their reference Premier 5000 Mark II. Straight away, the Yamo, KLIPSCH, and Focal offerings are all going to be more dynamically interesting and livelier by comparison. I don't advocate for the KLIPSCH reference 800F, and you can watch that review for my reasons why, so the Mission wins easily over that speaker. It's better constructed and has a much better overall sound. Now, when it comes to the newly revamped reference Premier line, based on our experience with the 8000F Mark IIs, my hunch is that the 5000F Mark IIs will be equally impressive. Considering they're priced about the same as the Missions, I'd give the KLIPSCH a solid look. Now, Yamo's S809 tower continues to be a fun-sounding speaker, even if it's not the most accurate. The Mission's build quality is actually more in line with the costlier Yamo C97 Mark II, making it a more of an apples-to-apples comparison. Like with the KLIPSCH, Yamo is going to have a more forward sound, which can be exciting, though when faced with poorly recorded music or movies, it is a sound that may become fatiguing for some of you. To avoid the chance of fatigue, I would steer you towards the Mission over the Yamos. The JBL Stage series has similar tendencies, a little bit of a boost in the bass, largely linear but mildly resonant mid-range with extended treble, and just enough roll-off in the top end to keep it agreeable. The A190s are notably larger than the Missions, and they are more dynamic, making them even better for home theater use or lower-level listening. At $600 for the pair, the JBLs are really hard to pass up. As for the Focal CHORAs, given their closeout pricing, they may be the budget-friendly speaker to beat while supplies last. They're more stylish than the Mission LX-6 speakers, and they are going to be a little bit more dynamic and lively. They have one of the best center images you're going to find at their current price point. I would likely choose the CHORAs at their sale price over the Missions, but again, if you're sensitive at all to high frequencies, the Missions may be the better fit for you. I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised by what I heard from Mission's biggest entry-level tower, the LX-6 Mark II. This is a supremely listenable speaker that, while not perfect, manages to get out of its own way and just deliver hours of fatigue-free listening across all genres of music and movies. So that's it. That is now my take on Mission's LX-6 Mark II tower speaker. But before we go, what do you think of them?
I really like these. I'm a big fan of their size and design.
Yeah.
They're modern, yet simple enough to blend in nicely with a lot of different decor styles, which I really like. And I think the detailing around the drivers is a really nice touch.
Yeah.
As far as your assessment goes, we're in pretty much total agreement.
Really?
Yeah, I think that these are... You seem surprised.
Well, I just kind of, lately, it's always been like, oh, you left this part out, or you didn't say this, or this comparison, or 9.
I mean, we
haven't got there yet?
We haven't got there yet.
Damn it. I was about ready to go celebrate.
Yeah, no, not
Walk
so
off home run,
not
man.
so fast.
All right.
Anyway, back to what I was saying about agreeing with your assessment. I think these are very easy to live with speakers.
Yes.
And out of all of your comparisons, the one I might pick over these is the JBL Stage. I really loved those speakers. As much as I like the new KLIPSCH RP line, unless I have the money for the 8000F Mark IIs, I think I would rather go with the speaker's appearance that I like better, which would be either the JBL or the Mission here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would definitely pick these over the Focal speakers.
Really?
Yeah, look, as cheap as those are right now, and I'm not, look, those the Focals are very good speakers. And when I first heard the CHORA line, I really liked them. I really liked their design at the time. It was pretty early on into my,
Your journey.
my participation in this. So at the time, the choras were something that I hadn't really seen before.
Sure.
But, fast forward like 3 years later or whatnot, the speakers I've come in contact with have just, grown exponentially. So now for low-level listening or those of you that may have some difficulty discerning dialogue, the KLIPSCH RP line will 100% be a better option.
Yes.
But, these weren't bad. They really weren't. I didn't struggle too much. Unless we were watching something that had, like English or
pretty heavy
Irish
dialects.
Yeah.
But I think any speaker might give you a little bit of a pause there.
I mean, I would say the KLIPSCH, the 8000Fs is something that I just really did not struggle with.
Yeah.
If you don't struggle with any hearing impairments, I think the Missions will be just fine for you.
Sure.
But I thought they were pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the one speaker you left off that I know people are going to ask about, I mean, honestly, it's a brand that we just don't get to talk about very often because they just don't send out review samples very
curious.
regularly. It's KEF.
Oh, okay.
So they have the Q550 is the speaker that I'm going to ask you to talk about, which, for the record, we haven't heard.
We had
we had the larger 750 Q750.
Okay. Yeah. They're going to be a lot more neutral and more exacting, a lot less rolled off in the top end. The Missions really do they struck me a bit like a small budget compact alternative to, like, say, a Polk R700. I'm not saying that they're the same. I'm just saying that kind of easygoing, listenability forever vibe that the R700s have, these Missions also have. The KEF is going to be more neutral. And with lesser recordings, it likely will still kind of shine a bit of a spotlight on compression or sibilance, plosives, thing like that. Bass-wise, I would not be surprised if the Missions actually come across as sounding fuller and richer compared to the KEF you just described. Now, the 750s, if memory serves, while they can be driven by some budget gear, they also responded very well. to better power, whether that's an integrated or a receiver, which is kind of the KEF way. The KEFs are nicer. I do think that they are a nicer finished speaker. That Q line, in terms of just style for money, is phenomenal. Now, I wish KEF was not pinching pennies and charging extra for grills. That the only other brand I've ever heard do that is Tecton. At least with KEF, you'll get them. Okay. But you know, boy, this one would be hard.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I do feel that they're somewhat similar speakers, or the sound is somewhat similar.
It
and
can
I
be,
totally
yeah.
agree with your, sort of budget mini R700 comparison. There is one other comparison that I'm going to ask you to make. And,
all right.
And look, I get it. This is like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. So just humor me here, because they're going to ask, because it doesn't stop anybody from asking.
I'm nervous.
How do you think that the budget line here in the Mission will compare to the Mission 700s?
If you have $1,200 for a pair of Mission LX-6 Mark IIs, but you also have the budget for $2,000 700s, I think the $2,000 700s are the better investment. They are the better speaker on multiple levels. They are equally listenable. They are a little bit more sensitive to amplifier pairing, though, so I would not be surprised if you have to maybe do a bit of a taster's choice Pepsi challenge with a couple of amps before getting the 700s just right. But you could also do the 700s at $2,000 with an integrated amp like the 778X or an Audio Lab, come in well under $3,000 and probably have a forever system and never really think twice about it, and have style to boot. But if $2,000 is the bridge too far, I would say that the LX-6 Mark IIs do give you some of the mid-range character and high frequency ease that the 700 has. The 770 is not comparable in any way, shape, or form. That is a truly refined two-way speaker that deserves way, way, way more praise than it's getting. But yeah, I think that's where I would go. If everything is full retail right now and the 2000 doesn't break the bank.
It's actually 2200.
Oh, 2200? Okay.
Yeah.
My advice is still the same. But if when you're seeing this weeks or months from now, the LX-6 Mark IIs are back on sale at less than $800 or $900 for the pair, no brainer, scoop them up. The value proposition will outweigh the gains from the 700.
Okay, fair enough.
Anything else?
No.
All right, guys, that is now our review of Mission's budget-friendly LX-6 Mark II tower speakers. What do you guys think? Let us know down in the comments below. Question of the day for you is, what do you guys think about Mission? We've done 3 Mission reviews now, and I have to say they are kind of a dark horse. They don't get a lot of attention, but I've always come away from my experience pretty pleased. So is this a brand that deserves a little bit more attention? Let us know down in the comments. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Go ahead and ring that bell so that you're notified when new videos come out. If you use any of the links that Kristi left for you down below, know that that is a great way that you have continued to show your support for this channel and the work that we do here. And both of us thank you all very, very much for doing that. Follow me on Instagram at Recovering Audiophile, and that is it for us today. So remember, the only person who has to like the sound of your system is you. So happy listening, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. See you on the next video. Bye.